Hey friends, it's Anna, and welcome to my first plan with me of 2025. I can't believe a completely new year is upon us, but I'm so excited for a fresh start in a new journal. I'm going to be trying out some new spreads, a little bit of a different planning system in honor of the new year. I just got set up in this beautiful storybook journal from Archer and Olive, and we're flipping through my beginning of the year journal spreads before starting on January. Grab your journal if you want to plan with me, grab some tea or coffee, get cozy, and let's start planning. I'm going to be using pretty minimal supplies for this setup, just a few fine liners, my Tombow Fudenosuke for brush lettering, a gold gel pen, and some pink brush pens from a Hoo. I'm starting with our cover page here, writing January as my title, and I went ahead and added a base color with one of the brush pens to go behind the lettering. I decided on a moon theme for January. I don't know why a moon just seemed so fitting for a new year, and also January is one of the colder, darker months of the year, so a nighttime feel seemed appropriate. Also, as you guys will see, I'm bringing back my sleep log because sleep is something I really want to prioritize in the new year, and of course moons are completely on theme for that. I'm going to complement the moons with some florals, and you might be able to see I already sketched out this cover page drawing in pencil, so I'm filling in the moon with gold around where the flowers will be. When sketching this, I went in the opposite order, so I drew the moon first and the flowers around it, but I thought it might be easier to fill in the gold first because I want the flowers to end up being on top, and I didn't want to accidentally go over any of the drawings with gold. So it looks a little weird here at first with the flowers missing, but you gotta just trust the process. Also, I did use some circle stencils to originally sketch this moon. I definitely cannot freehand curves that look this straight, so my biggest tip for getting moons that look really uniform is using circle stencils. I'll show them later in the video, but they're also linked below in the description along with all the other supplies I'm using in this setup. I'm drawing some simple 4 to 5 petal flowers with leaves that are weaving over and around the moon. I'm drawing the flowers from a very slightly sideways perspective, so the bottom petals are squatter to try to give them that angle, and they're also in various stages of opening. If you're a really beginner artist and you want to make florals slightly more interesting, I feel like this is a good next easy step, shifting the perspective from a flat bird's eye view to giving the plants a 3D look by drawing the leaves and flowers from different angles and having them curve and bend and face different ways. It takes a little bit of studying examples and how things look at different angles, but I think it really elevates a drawing. The nice thing too is that you can forever take that into any flowers and leaves you're drawing in the future. So I drew the initial outlines with my 01 size fine liner, and I'm adding some detail contour lines with the 005 size. I'm just semi-randomly adding some groups of lines following the curve of the petal or leaf from the middle to the outside. The flowers will be done after this. It's going to be completely black and white and gold drawing. It's kind of a different vibe and art style than I normally have in my journal, but I felt like it was fitting for this theme. I didn't know if I could commit to a completely black and white and gold theme though, so that's why I'm bringing in the pinks and the titles for some color. I felt like there was a lot of empty space to the right of the moon, so I'm going to add a 01 as it's the first month of the year. I wish I would have tried a little harder with these numbers. I kind of just wrote them without a specific font in mind, and they look really janky to me, but we're going to finish off the spread with some washi tape. I collected a few neutral tapes from my grid set and vintage botanicals set. I'm not going to lie, I was feeling pretty iffy about this theme at this point. Like I said, the feel is a little different from my normal style, but this next page on the left, I really like how it turned out, and that made me feel better about the cover page as well. So this is a new spread I'm trying, and also it's a little different for me to place it here next to the cover page. I had been doing a calendar and habits on this left side, but I moved those to other places in the setup because we're kind of trying a different planning system. I'm doing the 12-week year starting January 6th, so that's changing up my monthly format a little bit, but more on that later. This page, as you can see, is a gratitude log. I did a gratitude spread in November for Thanksgiving, and I asked you guys for more gratitude spread ideas during that plan with me, and a couple of you guys actually suggested this format. So I numbered all the days of the month down the page, and I have a space next to each day to write something good that happened or that I did that day. It's a little more specific than just anything I'm grateful for in general. This will force me to find something positive for each individual day, which I'm sure will be easy on some days, and some days I might have to try a little harder. I'm always looking for more ways to incorporate gratitude, and I think this spread will be especially helpful to combat negativity bias. That's the phenomenon that negative experiences tend to impact us more strongly than neutral or positive things of the same scale, and we're also more likely to remember negative things. Like if you have a nice normal day but one thing goes wrong, that's the thing we're most likely to remember when we think over the day. But this gratitude log practice will force me to acknowledge the positive as well and focus on registering more deeply the good things in life. So as you can see, the log itself is very simple to create. All I did was write the title and number the days. So this is an incredibly easy spread you can quickly add to any setup. I left some space on the left side of the page for another moon and florals drawing. This one has some tall and thin vines with the moon towards the top, and I also drew a gold line through the middle with some diamonds. I was inspired by this image I saw on Pinterest. I recreated something similar with the florals and art style that I'm using. I'm so excited to have this gratitude log. Anytime I regularly practice gratitude, it really boosts my mood, my outlook, makes me feel a lot more content, which makes my days even better and even easier to feel grateful for. I'm really happy with how this completed spread turned out, and now let's turn the page to my January log and calendar. I'm so sorry I was not recording when I wrote the title, but I used the same calligraphy font with the lighter pink as a backdrop. I was feeling unsure about how the darker pink looked, so in these pages I'm testing out only using this really light desaturated color. This page is my January log where I record all my events, appointments, travel, etc. This is basically my calendar for the month, but I prefer using this log format because it's easier to set up and gives me more space. The dates and days of the week are listed on the left, and all the space on the right is, of course, where I fill in my events. I'm drawing boxes to separate out the weeks. I'm specifically highlighting the last 4 weeks of the month because these are the first 4 weeks in my 12-week year. So I'm kind of doing a weird mix of this setup being for January and keeping track of my calendar, but as far as my weekly and daily planning, the setup will just be for those 4 weeks. Hopefully this will make more sense as the rest of the spreads come together. I'm definitely on a learning curve right now because this is my first time trying out the 12-week year and incorporating it into my bullet journal. So we're just gonna kind of figure this out together over the coming weeks, what spreads and setups are going to work best. The log takes up most of this page, so I'm just adding a few little leaf drawings around the title up top, and instead of moons, I'm adding some gold circles, just as a way to get some gold in there. This page on the right will be for my 12-week planning within the month of January. In case you're not familiar with the 12-week year, it's a book and method by Brian Morgan and Michael Lennington where you plan and make goals on a 12-week cycle instead of annual cycle. The idea is that annual planning can be really difficult because we have no idea what life is going to look like 6, 8, 9 months down the road, so it's hard to plan for a whole 12 months. But if you're only making goals for the next 12 weeks, that's a short enough time period where the deadline is already on the horizon, which creates a sense of urgency, and you can commit to planning out those weeks in advance. So with this system, I've actually already made 2 main goals for the next 12 weeks, mapped out the actions I need to take for those, and assigned each action a week that they're due. That's what this right page is all about. In the top, I'm putting a calendar highlighting the first 4 weeks that will take place during January. Even though I love the log system for keeping track of events, it's easier for my brain to visualize the month in this calendar format, so I like having a calendar available to look at as well. The goals section below is to reiterate for myself what actions I'm taking for those 12-week goals in this month. I made a spread in my 2025 setup to write out my goals in each action item. I'll link that video if you want to see how I set that all up at the beginning of my journal. So this page is listing those actions again. It might be kind of redundant, I'm not sure, but I thought it could be nice to just narrow in on those specific actions that are assigned to weeks in January. It can be overwhelming when you're viewing a big goal as a whole, but when you're only thinking about the next immediate steps, it feels a lot more doable. I'm curious what you guys think of this system so far, especially if you saw my 2025 setup where I talked about it a little more. Would planning on a smaller scale make sense for you? If you do annual goals, how do you keep track of them for such a long period of time? Or have you done the 12-week year and what did you think about it? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. I love hearing how other people plan and what works for them, so please leave me a comment. I'm curious what you guys are thinking about this system so far. So I left some empty space around the calendar and I'm filling that in with some more drawings. I'm adding those circles again as an easy way to extend the drawing and add some different shapes. With the gold circles, I'll also add some little dots around the edges to make them a little more interesting. This setup definitely has a very clean, minimal look. I hesitate to call it minimal because it was a fair amount of drawing, but it has that simple, clean feel. It's very subtle and not cluttered, which I do like in my journal. I never want the art to be too distracting from the functionality of the spreads. Flipping the page, we are now going to get into my sleep log and some habit trackers, starting with sleep on this left page. I did a sleep log for a few months in 2024 and I want to bring it back because getting enough good quality sleep is still something I struggle with, and I know sleep is so important for my physical health and mental health and stress and productivity. So this log will hopefully motivate me to prioritize sleep and also give me some insight on how to improve it. I'm numbering the days of the month down the page and I wrote the hours of each day up top, going from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. So each row represents a day and I'll color in the hours that I was asleep. Here's a past sleep log so you can see what I mean. I'll also write in the middle of the bar how many total hours of sleep I got, and then I have some room for notes on the right. I have a column to rate my restfulness. TNT stands for how many tosses and turns I had, and then I have a space for any notes, like if there was a reason I had trouble falling asleep or how awake or groggy I felt in the morning. You can of course keep a sleep log based on memory, but I am so excited. I recently got the Ultrahuman Ring Air to help me with my sleep tracking, so that will make this log a lot easier to keep up with, and that's where I'm getting this restfulness score and the tosses and turns number. Ultrahuman is also kindly the sponsor of this video, and I'm so excited to tell you guys a little bit about them. If you are at all interested in tracking and improving your sleep or other health metrics, the Ring Air provides so many useful insights. You might have noticed me wearing it in the video, but this is a smart ring that monitors sleep, movement, and recovery. It connects to an app on your phone that records and helps interpret all your data. I can track exercise, see when I'm stressed and relaxed. I can monitor my heart rate and temperature, and I have so much data about my sleep. So this makes keeping the sleep log really easy. This tells me when I was in bed and how much total sleep I got, and it also records my sleep stages and cycles. This is also where I can see exactly when I was tossing and turning, and it also gives me that number at the bottom. The ring has all of these components of sleep it tracks and scores for you. Restfulness is the one I put on my sleep log for now because I've realized this is something I need to address. I was mainly excited to get this ring for improving my sleep, but you can also learn so many other things about your health. It's a great way to track movement, and they also offer a lot of free add-ins for other things like cycle tracking, pregnancy insights, even vitamin D through sunlight exposure. The ring is also very convenient. I like that it's light and sleek, not a hassle to sleep in at all. It's water resistant, so I can wear it in the shower or swimming, and it has a 4 to 6 day battery life and only 2-hour charging time, which is really nice. So if you're like me and improving sleep is a goal of yours in 2025, Ultra Human did give me a discount for you guys of 10% off a Ring Air purchase. I'll put the link and information in the description box below, so be sure to check that out. And thank you so much to Ultra Human for sending me this amazing tool. Back to the sleep log, we're going to finish off the spread by adding a row of moons at the bottom in different phases. And I wanted to show you guys how this gold gel pen sparkles when the light hits it at different angles. It's so pretty, and I wasn't sure if you could see it that well from an overhead view. This page on the right will be my habit tracker. I have a few daily habits, some weekly ones, and I have a separate little section for exercise at the bottom. This is a little bit more in-depth habit tracking than I normally do, but I guess it's just the new year. I'm feeling really motivated to keep on track with these and also reestablish some habits that I kind of fell off of. We're starting at the top with 4 daily habits, so I'm making 4 mini calendars of January. I'm writing the habits in the boxes I outlined and filled in with pink, and then on each day that I completed that habit, I'll use the light pink to highlight that day. One of the habits I really want to reestablish is meditation. I actually noticed with my Ring Air that my heart rate has noticeably gone down the few times I've meditated in December, which is really cool to see that physiological response, and that has definitely motivated me to pick back up this habit consistently. In the middle of the page, I'm doing some weekly or bi-weekly trackers for things like laundry, watering plants. So I list out the habit and 4 open circles next to it, 1 for each week. Or for the less frequent task, I'll do 1 or 2 circles. I'll fill those in whenever I complete the habit, and I also write the date it was done above the circle, which that's what is really most helpful to let me see, okay, I've already washed the sheets once this month, and that's when it was last done. At the bottom of the page, I'm making a workout calendar. There were a few movement related things I wanted to track, so I figured I'd give this its own space. My husband and I go running a few times a week, but I've also been wanting to start like a strength training program, so this will record both of those. I also want to prioritize going on short walks throughout the day. This is what I normally do to take a break, but a lot of the times when I'm busy, I'll skip going on a walk, and I want to encourage myself that it's okay and actually really good for me to take those breaks instead of being sedentary for 8 hours straight. I'm making a key for each of those types of movement, and on each day I did one, I'll mark it with the appropriate symbol in the calendar. I don't necessarily need to do all of these every single day, but this calendar should give me a good look at how active I'm being, and as with all trackers, they serve as a very helpful reminder when I fill this in each day. I'm filling in the empty space with some more flowers and moons. There's so many different doodles you could draw with this theme, so it was pretty easy to come up with designs that would fit any space or shape. For the moons themselves, I did figure out over the course of this setup that it looks best, to me at least, if I use a slightly smaller circle to draw the inner curve. That allows the moon to curve around more fully. I do really love how the moon and flowers turned out, but I don't know if it's the pink. Something about the overall look isn't my favorite. I can't put my finger on exactly what it is. Like I said, this is kind of a different style than I normally go with, but that's okay. Not every monthly theme is gonna be a hit. On to our last spread of this setup, which will take up both these pages. This is my first weekly for the first week of the 12-week year. I'm starting it on Monday, January 6th, so I'm writing a title with the dates and a mini calendar highlighting the week we're on in the corner. Like I mentioned, the setup is for all of January when it comes to keeping track of my events and habits, but my weeklies and dailies in this theme will be January 6th through February 2nd. And then in my February setup, the weeklies will contain the next 4 weeks starting February 3rd and so on. My daily logs will be with all the open space to the right, but first I'm making a goals and tasks area under the calendar. The goals section is to write out any actions related to what I need to get done for the 12-week goals this week. Like I said, I've already come up with my full action plan for each goal and what week each item needs to get done on, so I'll just rewrite that here. I can also get even more specific if this week's item needs to be broken into smaller steps on different days. The section below is just for any other tasks I need to get done this week, not related to my bigger goals. Now I'm drawing a big border around the remaining space on the pages, and this is where I'll actually write my daily logs. I'll make the title for Monday to start us off, but I actually don't make all the other daily sections ahead of time. I use however much space I need to write things for that day and then start the next day right below it. Some days I need to write a lot more than others, so this system just gives me that flexibility. I'm going to add a little washi tape to the right page so it isn't so bare, and that will be it for my first monthly setup of 2025. I know this one was a little different, but I hope you guys got some ideas or just enjoyed journaling with me. Let's do a flip through to see all the spreads. I'm excited to take you guys along with me these next few months in experimenting with this new planning system and some new spread layouts. Be sure to subscribe if you want to follow along. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm wishing you a wonderful start to the new year.